I remember watching the snow fall through the windshield as Ethan drove us toward his family's lake house in Vermont, and for the first time in weeks, I hoped the silence between us meant peace instead of tension. Thanksgiving was supposed to be a fresh start before our wedding. Ethan's idea, not mine. He wanted a cozy family moment, a chance to bring both families together to heal whatever invisible wounds were forming. But even before we pulled into the long driveway, something in my chest tightened. You know when your instincts whisper that you're walking into a room where everyone already knows the punchline but you? That's exactly how I felt. The house looked like something pulled from a postcard. White shutters, the reflection of the lake shimmering behind it, smoke curling out of the chimney. Ethan squeezed my hand and whispered, "It's going to be a good weekend. I promise." But the words came out too carefully, like he rehearsed them. Something about the way he forced a smile made me uneasy. The front door swung open before we reached it. His mother, Patricia, stood there wearing a burgundy sweater dress and the same tight smile she always reserved for me, a smile that hovered somewhere between polite approval and quiet resentment. "You're finally here," she said as she leaned in for a hug that felt more obligatory than affectionate. We were beginning to think something happened. Nothing happened. She just liked to make everything feel late, out of place, or inconvenient, especially when it involved me. Ethan's father, Richard, waved from the fireplace. His sister Hannah moved around the living room arranging throw pillows and adjusting decorations like she was preparing for a magazine photo shoot. My parents were already seated, and I could tell immediately that they sensed the tension too. My mother gave me a soft, encouraging smile, but my father's eyes stayed narrow, guarded. He had never trusted how deeply involved Patricia was in our wedding planning. We all exchanged greetings, but something felt wrong. Conversation stopped when I walked into rooms. Whispers floated behind half-closed doors, and more than once, I caught Patricia staring at me with an expression that silently asked, "Why are you really here?" It wasn't new, but tonight it felt sharper, like something had escalated without my knowledge. Ethan kept brushing my arm, running his thumb along my palm, doing all those little gestures he only did when he was anxious. "Relax," he whispered. "It's just nerves. Weddings do that to families." But it wasn't the wedding making everyone act like we were holding a live grenade. It was something else, something I couldn't see yet. The afternoon passed in a haze of forced conversations, awkward pauses, and small moments that didn't make sense at the time. In the kitchen, I walked in just as Patricia quickly slid an envelope under a stack of napkins. She jumped slightly when she noticed me. "Oh, just organizing," she muttered. But the way her voice trembled, it stuck with me. Later, Hannah asked me out of nowhere, "Do you feel ready for all this? Like truly ready?" With a look that suggested she expected the answer to be no. I laughed nervously and said yes, but she just gave a small pitying nod before walking away. A strange chill ran up my spine. By the time we sat down for Thanksgiving dinner, the tension clung to the air like humidity before a storm. The dining room was beautiful, candles flickering inside glass lanterns, golden charger plates, a floral centerpiece dripping with eucalyptus and deep red roses, and yet the atmosphere felt suffocating. Patricia had arranged everything herself, of course, she reminded us 10 times. Ethan's knee bounced under the table. Mine began to tremble too. We started eating, and the conversations felt rehearsed, too careful, too controlled. My parents exchanged glances with me, gentle but worried. Ethan barely touched his food. Halfway through dinner, Patricia lifted her glass. "Before we get to dessert, I think it's only fair we talk about the wedding." But Ethan cut her off sharply. "Mom, not now." Her eyes flared for a moment, but she smiled again. That same smile that always felt coated in sugar but tasted like vinegar. "I only meant to say we're grateful for the season ahead," she amended. "Big changes, a big future. That's all." At that moment, I felt something shift. The way she said it. The way her gaze slid past me as if I wasn't part of that future. I swallowed the knot in my throat and focused on the soft clinking of silverware, trying to steady my breathing. After a long, fragile silence, Ethan stood. He didn't warn me. He didn't say a word. He just stood up. He raised his glass, and every movement felt too stiff, too heavy, like even his arms were weighed down by whatever he was about to do. I want to give a Thanksgiving toast, he started. His voice cracked at the edges. To everyone here. To family, to forgiveness. The word forgiveness made Patricia's eyes narrow slightly, but no one else seemed to notice. I reached for his hand under the table, expecting him to squeeze it. Instead, he pulled away softly, but enough to make my heart stutter. He cleared his throat, trying again. I planned this Thanksgiving because I wanted us all together before the wedding. I thought it would be good for us to reconnect, to work through some things. And because I've been carrying something heavy, something I need to say, I felt the air leave my lungs. Oh God, he's going to break up with me, in front of both families. On Thanksgiving, my stomach twisted violently. But that wasn't it, not even close. Ethan's hands shook as he held the glass. I need to be honest about something I did. Something my mom did. Something we hid from you. A chill ran down my spine, and I froze. This was not happening, not here, not now. He glanced at Patricia. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was staring daggers at him, silently ordering him to stop. But he kept going. Mom and I... There were decisions made about the wedding. Behind your back. His voice cracked again. I thought it was harmless. I thought it would make things easier. But it didn't. It spiraled. My breath became shallow. What decisions? I whispered, my throat burning. Ethan lifted a trembling hand to his face. The contract. The vendors. The finances. They were handled without your approval. What? My voice came out strained, barely audible. He nodded, tears gathering in his eyes. There's a contract for the venue, catering, the planner signed using your information. Without your consent. The room went silent. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Patricia's face drained of color. Ethan, she hissed. Stop. But he didn't. He kept talking, his words cutting through the quiet like a blade. I was scared we'd fall behind on planning. Mom said she knew what she was doing. I trusted her. And she said you'd be grateful later. His voice dropped to a whisper. But I shouldn't have let it happen. I shouldn't have agreed. My chair suddenly felt too small for me. My skin tingled with humiliation. You forged my signature? I finally asked, my voice trembling. Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, I did. It hit me like a collision. Loud, violent, crushing. My parents gasped softly. Hannah looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Richard stared at his plate, ashamed. I stood up so abruptly my chair screeched. My hands trembled as I pressed them against the table for support. How could you? My voice shook uncontrollably. How could you make choices about our wedding, my wedding, without even telling me? Patricia jumped in. Darling, it wasn't like that. Don't call me darling, I snapped. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes. You went behind my back. Both of you. Patricia straightened her posture, putting on that cold, controlled demeanor she loved so much. Someone had to make decisions. You were overwhelmed, emotional. You needed guidance. What she meant was, you needed control. Mine. My father stood. This is illegal, he said, voice firm. Forged signatures, financial commitments without consent? What were you thinking? Patricia scoffed. Oh, please. It's family. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then she said it. The sentence that sliced me open. You don't belong here anyway. The room froze. Even the candles seemed to stop flickering. Ethan's face crumpled. Mom, stop. But she wasn't done. This family has standards, traditions, expectations. I was simply protecting my son. My jaw trembled. Protecting him from what? She stared at me, her expression cold and final. From marrying the wrong woman. Something inside me shattered. I pushed my chair away and walked out of the dining room before I burst into tears in front of everyone. My vision blurred as I hurried down the hallway, desperate for air, desperate for space, desperate to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. I didn't stop until I reached the back porch. The cold November air hit me hard, but it didn't clear my mind. It only made the pain sharper. I leaned against the railing trying to steady my breathing, but the sob forced its way out anyway. Behind me the door creaked open. It wasn't Ethan. It was Richard. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets, guilt etched across his face. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I've seen Patricia do a lot of things over the years. But this crossed a line." I wiped my face with my sleeve, unable to speak. He sighed. "She thinks control is love. She doesn't understand boundaries, and Ethan. He spent his whole life trying not to upset her." His words stung like frostbite. "Then how can I marry him?" I whispered. "If he always chooses her comfort over my trust?" Richard didn't answer. He just looked at me with sad, knowing eyes, as if he'd asked himself that same question for decades. Inside the house, voices escalated. Patricia shouting. Ethan pleading. My parents demanding explanations. The storm was only beginning. And I knew this night would change everything. I stayed on the porch longer than I intended, letting the cold night air numb my skin while I tried to make sense of everything that had just happened. I could still hear muffled voices from inside, Patricia's sharp tone cutting through the silence, Ethan's trembling responses, my mother trying to intervene. It was chaos, the kind that twists itself around your ribs and squeezes until you can't breathe. Richard stood beside me for a few minutes more, not speaking, just breathing in the same tight rhythm I had. When he finally returned indoors, he squeezed my shoulder gently, as if to say he wished he could fix this. But he couldn't. I stayed outside long after the door closed behind him. I needed the space. I needed the distance. I needed clarity. When I finally walked back into the house, the atmosphere had changed. The dining room lights felt too bright, the tension too heavy. Everyone was standing now, my parents on one side, Ethan on the other, and Patricia positioned near the head of the table like a queen defending her throne. Hannah approached me first, her voice low and apologetic. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't know he'd actually say all of that. I blinked. "You knew?" She hesitated. "I knew there were documents. That Mom had taken over the contracts. I didn't know about the signature." She swallowed nervously. "I swear I didn't." Her eyes were sincere, but the damage was already unraveling everything between us. Before I could respond, Ethan stepped forward. His face was blotchy from crying. I had never seen him look so small. "Please," he whispered. "Can we talk? Just us." My father moved closer, his protective stance unmistakable. "She doesn't have to go anywhere with you right now." I put a hand on my father's arm. "It's okay, Dad," I said quietly. "I need to hear what he has to say." Ethan led me to the den, closing the door behind us. The moment the door clicked shut, he collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I'm so sorry," he said between breaths. "I didn't know how to tell you. I should have told you months ago." I stayed standing. I couldn't sit yet, not with my heart racing like that. "Why didn't you?" My voice trembled despite how hard I tried to steady it. He looked up, eyes red and filled with desperation. "Because I was overwhelmed. Because my mom was pressuring me every day. Because she was doing everything, and I thought," his voice cracked, "I thought she just wanted to help." "That's not help, Ethan," I said, my arms crossed tight against my chest. "That's control." He nodded miserably. "I know that now. I know I should have stopped her." I know I should have protected you. The word protected hit me harder than I expected. You forged my signature, I whispered. Do you understand how violating that is? That's not a mistake. That's a choice. He stood slowly as if approaching a wounded animal. I know, and it was the worst choice of my life. I panicked. The planner said we were losing dates. Mom said I needed to act fast. He shook his head. I made the wrong decision. I finally sat down but far from him. A gulf stretched between us, filled with everything he hadn't told me. What else aren't you telling me? Ethan froze. Something flickered across his face. Fear? Shame? Something deeper? He sank back onto the couch. His fingers twisted into his hair as he exhaled shakily. There's more. But I didn't know how to tell you. My heart pounded. Tell me. He looked straight at me, defeat pouring from every part of him. Mom wasn't just helping with the wedding, she was planning something else. I didn't blink. What? He swallowed hard. She wanted to announce a different engagement. On Thanksgiving, my blood turned cold. A what? A different wedding, he whispered. A different bride. The room began to spin. Your ex? His silence was the answer. For a moment, I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The betrayal wrapped itself around my lungs like a tightening fist. I didn't agree to it, he rushed to say. I told her no. I told her I loved you. But she wouldn't stop. She kept pushing. She said she was keeping her options open. She had meetings. She had plans. She thought I was making a mistake with you. A tear slid down my cheek, hot and furious. You didn't tell me, I whispered. You let me walk into this house, into this holiday, into this family, without knowing any of this. I'm sorry, he said again, the words hollow from overuse. I thought it didn't matter because I shut it down. I thought I could protect you by keeping it quiet. Protect me? I let out a bitter laugh. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting her. He flinched, and for a moment, guilt flooded his features so deeply that I almost softened. Almost. I stood up. I need to think. He grabbed my hand gently. Please don't leave this room angry. Ethan, I walked into this room angry. His hand dropped slowly. His expression collapsed. I walked out of the den, my heart pounding so loudly it drowned out my footsteps. As I stepped back into the dining room, everyone's eyes darted toward me. Patricia stood near the window, her posture rigid, arms crossed like a sentinel guarding her territory. She looked almost proud of herself, which made my stomach twist. My mother approached cautiously. Are you okay? No, I said honestly. But I will be. Patricia lifted her chin. I hope Ethan didn't upset you further. He tends to exaggerate when he's emotional. My parents looked at her with pure disbelief. My voice steadied with an anger I had never felt before. You knew, I said. You knew about the contract. You knew about the forged signature. And you knew about the other wedding. Her eyes flashed. Well, someone had to consider what was best for him. And that wasn't me, right? I asked sharply. She didn't hesitate. No. It wasn't. Gasps filled the room from Hannah, from my mother, even a soft one from Richard. I felt the emotional hit in my chest, but I didn't flinch. I was done shrinking around this woman. My father stepped forward. This is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Patricia waved a dismissive hand. Don't be dramatic. Relationships need strong foundations. If yours was truly strong, this wouldn't bother you. It bothers me because it's immoral, I shot back. Because it's disgusting. Because it shows what kind of family I'm marrying into. Patricia's lips curled in a cold smile. If you walk away so easily, then maybe you weren't meant to marry him. I felt something inside me snap quietly, decisively. I'm not walking away easily, I said. I'm walking away with dignity. Ethan stumbled in behind me. Mom, stop. He begged. Please stop. But she didn't. She stared at me with satisfaction like she was finally getting the outcome she wanted. My mother turned to Richard. "How'd you allow this?" she asked, voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. For the first time, Richard didn't look lost, he looked resolute. He faced Patricia fully. "Enough," he said sharply. She looked at him, stunned. "What?" "Enough," he repeated. "This has gone too far. You've humiliated her. You've embarrassed us. And you've hurt our son." Patricia recoiled like she'd been slapped. "I was trying to help." "No," he said. "You were trying to control." The entire room held its breath. Hannah stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Mom, he's right." Patricia's eyes widened in betrayal at her own family siding against her. I watched it all unfold, feeling layers of confusion, heartbreak, and relief clash inside me. But beneath all that, something else was forming. Clarity. Ethan approached me carefully, as if walking toward the edge of a cliff. "Can we talk?" he whispered. "Not now," I said softly. "Not in this room." "Not like this." He nodded, accepting it. I started to walk toward the hallway when Hannah gently tugged my elbow. "Wait," she whispered. "There's something you should know. Something about that envelope." My pulse quickened. "What envelope?" She swallowed. "The one Mom hid in the kitchen." My breath caught in my chest. "What was in it?" "I didn't want to look," she said. "But I did." Her voice lowered to a tremble. "It wasn't just a proposal for another wedding." I stared at her. "What was it?" Her eyes glistened. "It was a full plan, a schedule. A list of guests, a venue. She booked everything." I blinked. "For Ethan." Hannah shook her head slowly. "For Ethan, and someone else." The room swayed beneath me. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Hannah looked down, her throat tightening. "His ex," she whispered finally. "She planned their entire wedding." My heart shattered. Not metaphorically, physically, sharply, deeply. I could barely speak. "I need to see it." Hannah nodded. "It's still in the kitchen drawer." My legs moved before my mind caught up. I walked into the kitchen, opened the drawer, and pulled out the envelope. It was thick, 14 pages thick. I slid the papers out, my hands trembling uncontrollably. On the first page, Thanksgiving announcement, Ethan and Claire, wedding timeline Claire. His ex, the one Patricia always said was the right fit. My vision blurred. Behind me, I heard footsteps light, cautious. Hannah, my mother, Richard, and then Ethan. He froze when he saw the papers in my hand. "I didn't know she did all that," he whispered, horrified. I swear to God I had no idea. I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight of betrayal, not just by him, but by the family I was supposed to join. Ethan stepped closer, tears streaking his face. "Please. Look at me, please," I did. And what I saw wasn't a monster. It was a man who had been shaped, controlled, and manipulated his entire life, too afraid to break the cycle, too desperate to keep the peace, too weak to protect the woman he claimed to love. At that moment, I didn't know whether I wanted to save us or walk away forever. But one thing was certain. Everything would change after tonight. For a long moment, none of us moved. The kitchen felt unbearably quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your skin until it hurts. I stood there holding the envelope, staring at the absurd, soul-shattering title printed at the top of the page. Ethan and Claire, wedding timeline. It felt surreal, almost grotesque, like a twisted alternate universe had been placed in my hands. Ethan reached out as if to take the papers, but I pulled them away instinctively. He froze, pain cutting deep across his face. "I didn't know," he whispered again, voice trembling. "I swear to you, I didn't approve any of this." My throat tightened with a painful pulse of emotion, anger, disbelief, grief, betrayal, all tangled up until I could barely tell them apart. My mother stepped closer, carefully placing one hand on my back, steadying me. "Sweetheart," she whispers softly, "you don't have to deal with this right now, but I did. If I didn't face this now, it would rot inside me forever." I took a slow, unsteady breath and walked into the dining room, the entire stack of papers in my hand. All eyes turned toward me. Patricia stared with her chin lifted arrogantly high, as if she were daring me to crumble. Hannah stood behind her father, wringing her hands. Richard looked defeated. My father looked ready to fight someone. My mother followed closely behind me. I placed the envelope on the dining table. "Let's talk," I said. The firmness in my voice surprised even me. Patricia scoffed. "Oh, please, you're not actually believing that nonsense, are you?" "It's nothing. Claire and Ethan have history." I was simply, "You were planning their wedding," I cut her off. My tone was calm, steady. Dangerously steady, for months. Behind everyone's back, she shrugged. "If Ethan had chosen correctly the first time, we wouldn't be here." A sharp breath caught in my lungs, tightening my chest. My father slammed his palm on the table. "This is sick. You planned an entire wedding while your son is engaged to another woman?" Patricia's expression hardened. "I did what any mother would do. I looked out for my child." Richard stared at her, stunned. "No mother does this, Pat. No mother." Patricia lifted her chin higher. "Ethan deserves someone who understands him." "And what about what I deserve?" I demanded. She didn't even blink. "Irrelevant." My breath hitched. I had never in my life been told so directly that my feelings held no value. The cruelty of the word burned through me like acid. Ethan stepped forward, trembling. "Mom, stop. You're destroying everything. You destroyed everything the moment you chose wrong," she snapped back. He closed his eyes, shoulders shuddering, as if every word she spoke cut deeper than the last. I really looked at him, and for the first time, I saw how fractured he was beneath the surface. A lifetime of trying to please everyone had turned him into someone who froze under pressure, someone who hoped conflict would resolve itself if he just stayed quiet long enough. But silence had consequences, painful ones. I took a deep breath and turned to him. "Ethan, I need to understand something. And I need you to be honest." He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Did you ever consider getting back with Claire?" "No," he said immediately, pleading. "Never, not for a second." "I love you. Then why didn't you tell me any of this?" I asked. "Why didn't you warn me?" He swallowed hard. "Because I was afraid it would hurt you. Afraid you'd leave. Afraid that confronting her would make everything worse." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You were afraid. And fear makes people weak. It makes them hide instead of stand." Patricia rolled her eyes. "Oh, give me a break." "This dramatic speech," Richard snapped. "For once in your life, shut up." The entire room gasped softly. Patricia looked like he had slapped her. "You're taking her side?" "I'm taking the side of sanity," Richard said. He pointed to the envelope. "This is not normal. This is not love. This is obsession." Patricia's face turned stone cold, her eyes like ice. "You're all ungrateful. Every one of you." Then she turned to me, and for the first time the mask dropped completely. There was no fake politeness, no sugarcoating, only raw bitterness. "You will ruin his life," she hissed. "You are weak, emotional. You manipulate him with tears. You're not worthy of him." "You never were." I took a slow step forward, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "If you truly believed that, you wouldn't have tried so hard to replace me. People only fight this viciously when they feel threatened." She blinked. "Just once. I hit a nerve." "Maybe," I continued, "you're terrified that I'm teaching him how to think for himself, how to set boundaries, how to choose his own happiness instead of yours." Ethan choked back a sob. Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. My father whispered behind me, "Good girl." But I wasn't finished. Patricia, I said softly, if your son truly needed protecting, then why does he look terrified of disappointing you? I motioned to Ethan. That's not devotion. That's fear. No one breathed. Patricia's face crumpled, but only for a second. Then she hardened again. You don't understand this family. Maybe not, I said, but I understand what respect looks like. And this? This isn't it. Silence stretched across the room like a tight wire. Finally, Ethan wiped his face and took a step toward me. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I never wanted to hurt you. I've spent my whole life avoiding conflict. I thought if I kept things quiet, if I kept the peace, it would all somehow work out. But it didn't. I see now that silence doesn't protect love, it destroys it. He knelt down. Right there, in the middle of the dining room floor. I don't want to lose you, he said, voice breaking. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that I can stand up for us, for myself, for you. I'll cut ties. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't walk away from me. I stared down at him, voice trapped in my throat. My father whispered, you don't owe him an answer tonight. He was right. So I knelt not to mirror Ethan, but to meet his eyes at level. You need to understand something, I said softly. Tonight didn't just break my trust. It broke something inside you too. Something you need to rebuild, not for me, but for yourself. He nodded desperately. I will. I placed my hand gently on his cheek. I believe you want to, but wanting and doing are different things. His tears fell onto my wrist. And I love you, I said. But love isn't enough when fear is driving the relationship. He closed his eyes as if the truth stung him physically. I need time, Ethan, I whispered. I need to breathe without wondering what else I don't know. I need space to heal what tonight tore open. He exhaled shakily. I'll give you anything. I nodded slowly and stood. Patricia stepped forward, furious. So that's it? You're punishing him? I turned to her. No, I said. I'm teaching him what boundaries look like. Hannah burst into tears. Richard held her. My mother hugged me tightly, whispering in my hair, I'm proud of you. My father placed a protective arm around both of us. Ethan stood shakily, looking shattered but determined. Mom, I'm staying with her tonight, he said quietly. Not you, Patricia froze. What? He wiped his face. I love you, but this ends now. Your control, your manipulation, your plans. All of it. Patricia reached for him, panicked. Ethan, please. He stepped back. No, he said firmly. Not anymore. The look on her face was indescribable loss, shock, fury, fear. All colliding at once. He turned toward me again. I'll do the work, he whispered. I promise. I nodded, but didn't take his hand. Not yet. Some broken things need time before they can be touched again. My parents gathered our coats, and Ethan walked us to the car. Snow had begun to fall again, soft and slow, dusting the ground in white. It felt strangely peaceful after the storm we had just survived. Before I got into the car, Ethan stopped me. Will we still get married? He asked, voice trembling. I looked at him for a long moment. And then I spoke the truth neither of us wanted to admit. We won't get married in fear, I said softly. We'll get married when you're strong enough to stand beside me, not behind your mother. He swallowed hard, nodding slowly. Then I will become that man. I believed him. Not because he said it, but because, for the first time that night, I saw something new in his eyes. Resolve. Real, painful, transformative resolve. I kissed his cheek gently. Take care of yourself, Ethan. He whispered, I love you. I know, I said softly. But now you need to love yourself too. He stepped back, letting me go. As we drove away, I watched him shrink into the snowy darkness of the driveway, small, fragile, but finally stepping out of the shadow he'd lived in his whole life. And in the quiet of the car, With my mother holding my hand and my father staring protectively ahead, something inside me settled into place. Life wasn't about avoiding pain. It wasn't about dodging conflict. It wasn't about suppressing truth in the name of comfort. It was about balance. What you hide grows. What you face transforms. And love, real love, can only survive where truth is allowed to breathe. Before falling asleep that night, I whispered a quiet message to the viewers who would one day hear my story. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And if this story meant something to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Your words matter more than you know. And if you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. I closed my eyes, knowing my story wasn't ending. It was beginning again. On different terms, on stronger ground. On truth.